You were in a small mud house by the edge of town, sweating, panting, crying, and then smiling, because you just gave birth. A healthy boy. Your boy. You hold him close, pressing his tiny face against your chest. He latches instantly, hungry for life, and your heart feels full for the first time in years. Your husband, drunk as usual, stands at the door, holding a clay pot of beer. Nice toys. Maybe we can sell him for some coins and buy more beer. You ignore him and hug what's yours, your cute baby boy. That same night, in the royal court, 4 babies were born, all belonging to the palace women. And the king, in his shining arrogance, gave an order. The king said coldly, "No royal woman shall feed her own child. Send for wet nurses. Find strong milk, healthy and pure." Because in history, breastfeeding was considered a shameful job. So the messengers rode out across towns, asking every midwife who'd given birth recently, and by morning the knock came. 3 men, faces covered, stood at your door. The messenger said, "We've heard you birth a son." And you nervously said, "Yes, just last night." The messenger said, "Then your milk must be rich. The palace needs you. You will be paid in gold and silk." You look at your baby, so small, so soft, and you shake your head. You say, "I can't leave him." But your husband, already half drunk and seeing the glint of silver coins, interrupts and says, "She'll come. Of course she'll come. The gods bless such offers." You angrily say, "You're selling me like cattle." The husband, smirking, says, "At least cattle earn something." They test you, not with words, but hands. One man, a palace guard, inspects your breasts like a butcher, checking for meat. He squeezes, nods. The guard says, "Strong milk, she'll do." And before you could protest, your baby was taken from your arms, placed in the hands of your useless husband, and you were told you'd return every weekend to see him. You believed it. You wanted to believe it. The palace was nothing like your world. Marble floors, gold plates, servants running like frightened pigeons. You and another woman, both freshly mothers, were led into a grand hall where 4 royal babies wailed in gold-crusted cradles. The midwife said, "Feed them, all 4. No spills, no delays." You look at the infants, pink, heavy, well-fed already, and your body trembles. You sit, one by one, letting them drink. Hours pass, your breasts ache, your nipples burn, your back screams. By the time the last one finishes, your dress is soaked with milk and sweat. You whisper to the other nurse, "I miss my son." She whispers back, "Don't, it only hurts more." Lunch arrives, cold scraps, half-eaten bread, bones stripped of meat. Servants dumping a plate say, "Eat, you'll need strength." At night, you're shown your bed, a straw mat in the corner of the servants' quarters. Rats scurry across the floor, the pillow smells of mold. You close your eyes, whispering a prayer. "Just a few days, then I'll see him." Day 2, the guard says, "Up, babies are hungry." You rub your eyes, your body is sore. You start feeding them as usual. Hours blur together. Then someone orders, "Scrub the floors, polish the trays, carry water." You weren't just a wet nurse. You were a servant, a tool, a body. By the 4th day, your breasts feel like stones. The milk comes slower, thinner. The midwife frowns. She says, "What's wrong with your milk?" And you weakly say, "I'm tired. I haven't eaten properly." The midwife snaps back, saying, "Royal children do not wait for your fatigue." You swallow your tears. You think of your boy. Just one more day until you can see him. They take you back home in a small cart. You're trembling with excitement. You imagine his smell, his soft skin. But when you arrive, your heart stops. Your son looks frail. You hold him close and you say, "What happened? He's starving." No answer. Your husband isn't even there. Only empty jugs and a filthy mat. You say, "Where's his father?" The neighbor says, "At the tavern. He doesn't come home much." Your eyes fill with tears. You say, "I'll stay tonight. I'll feed him." The guard says, "No, time's up." You say, "Please, just one night." The guard coldly says, "Orders are orders." They drag you away as your son cries behind you. Days become weeks. You grow weaker, paler. Your breasts ache. But the milk is slower now, thin like watered soup. The midwife with narrow eyes say, "Your flow is failing." You with a hoarse voice say, "I need rest. I need real food. I need my own son." The midwife flatly says, "Royal children drink first." They squeeze you like you're a jar to be emptied. You press the babies to your chest until your back knots and your arms shake. Each time one of them latches, guilt sets in like a fever. Every swallow you hear is a swallow your boy doesn't get. At night, just as your eyes finally start to close, the guard kicks down the door. "Wake up, the youngest woke." You somehow make it to the kids' chambers and feed. By dawn, you're dizzy. Breakfast is a chewed apple core, and yesterday's bread, hard as stone. Your milk thins to almost nothing. The babies fuss, then scream. The midwife's face tightens. The midwife says, "Why do you withhold?" You say, "I don't. There's nothing left." She slaps the wooden table. The jars rattle. The midwife says, "Then make more." They bring you boiled grains in a bowl of soup with a skin of fat on top, like a seal on a letter that you can't read. It isn't enough. You drink it anyway, feel it vanish before it even reaches your bones. They keep their promise again. A short visit home. You count breaths in the car. 30, 60, 100, as if numbers can carry you faster. You rush inside. Your boy lies listless, eyes too big for his face. You scooping him up. My heart, look at me." He tries to latch, but he can't. He's forgotten how. No, he's too weak to remember. You say, "Where's his father?" A neighbor, with a shrug and a spit. "The market, tavern, somewhere not here." You hold your boy against your chest. You hum him a lullaby. The guard clears his throat and says, "Time." You beg, "2 more minutes, please." But the guard with a gravelly voice says, "Time." They pull your son from your arms and they take you back. You return to the palace with your eyes aching from crying and your throat raw from swallowing what you can't say. That night, a general staggers into the servants' corridor. He smells of wine and dust, a man who has never been told no. The general, leaning in the doorway, says, "You, milk girl." You freeze. You say, "I'm here for the children." He laughs, the kind of laugh that doesn't belong near a child. The general says, "Tonight you serve a different house." You try to step past, but he blocks you. The corridor feels smaller than a grave. You look over his shoulder for help. No one's there. No one ever is. What happens then is a bruise you carry inside your skull. No details, only a torn night and a mouthful of silence. You tell no one. Morning comes with a pounding on the door. A messenger holds a scrap of papyrus. The messenger is flat and bored, saying, "For the wet nurse." Your hands shake. You open it. Your husband's crooked lines crawl across the page. The letter says, "Storm took the roof. Your boy is gone." The world doesn't tilt. It collapses. Your heart is broken into pieces. Later you learn the truth from a kitchen girl who knows everything. There was no storm, only a night of drinking and forgetting. Your boy died of hunger and neglect. The lie about the storm is a mercy that the letter writer can live with. You say nothing. You still go to the babies. You still lift them. You still give them what your body barely has. That night you collapse on the straw and do not sleep. You stare at the ceiling. Your lips shape his name until it becomes a breath. Something small and hard grows in you. Not hope, not courage, just the stubborn refusal to die in the wrong story. One midnight when the corridor is empty and the general is sleeping off his wine, you wrap your shawl tight, hide your hair, and you walk. You don't run. Running invites questions. Walking is invisible. You step past the nursery door and you don't look in. You step past the kitchen with its stink of fat and ash. At the gate, 2 guards play dice. Guard 1 says, "Your turn." Guard 2 says, "Not yet." Their eyes never lift. You slip into the night. The city holds its breath. You move through alleys, across courtyards, into open desert where the stars are ice chips and the air is a blade. By dawn, your feet are bleeding. Your tongue is dry and you're somewhere else. A village that smells like yeast and smoke and goats. Woman at the well, staring, says, "A palace wet nurse." Man with a basket adds a laugh. Milk for their princess, nothing for her own. You sleep in a shed behind a baker's shop. You trade chores for crumbs. Your hands find work. Your mind cannot. The news arrives carried on 3 mouths at once. Market gossip. A royal child is dead. Another voice says poison. The third voice smugly says, "They say the wet nurse ran away." It takes a second for the air to move again. You know what truth is. The little prince spent yesterday stuffing berries into his mouth, red and pretty and fatal. You saw those same berries near the palace garden once. You told a maid they looked wrong. She shrugged. The world shrugs at the poor. But truth is useless if it's not powerful. By sundown, riders arrive. They don't ask for your name. They don't search. They arrive already knowing where you were. Someone pointed. Someone always points. The captain, pulling you up by the arm, says, "By order of the king." You don't struggle. Your body is tired of your bones. They haul you onto a horse. The village watches like it's a festival. No one speaks. They call it a trial because the word looks good next to the king's name. It's a room with a chair and men who've never been hungry. The general is there in clean armor, eyes like a dry riverbed. The judge says, "You fled the palace the night before the prince died. Confess!" You say, "I fled because I was being used and hurt." There's a ripple in the room, nothing like pity. The judge said, "Did you poison the prince?" You reply, "No." The general cool says, "She starved her milk. She resented the child." You say, "Ask the garden keeper about the berries." The judge said, "We asked the midwife." And the midwife, with hands folded, said, "Her milk failed. She was bitter. She spoke curses." You say, "My son died because I was here. I gave your children what I could never give him. If there's poison in me, it's grief." There was silence. Then a clerk cleared his throat by keeping the script moving. The judge said, "By decree of the king, death." No gasp, no shock. The room knew the ending when you walked in. They tied your hands, but gently, like they're worried you'll bruise before the audience sees. The courtyard is full. People come for death the way they come for melons when they're in season. The executioner looks at you like a doctor looks at a task. Efficient, respectful, empty. The executioner with a low voice says, "Any last words?" You look up at the same sky your boy once blinked at. It's wide, it's careless, and you say, "Yes." The crowd leans in. You search for a sentence that can hold your whole life. You find something smaller but true. You say, "I was a mother." The executioner nods, as if he understands a language he never learned. The rope is a rough circle. Your throat is one too. They meet. The world narrows. The air thins. Your heartbeat is a drum losing its rhythm. You think of 4 royal cradles. A boy with a bird-bone chest, a rat at your foot, a cart counting breaths, a general's shadow, a garden full of red berries. And then, nothing.